hire me to be your chief peace officer. I will install a world peace computer within your organization. It will be phenomenal. Or, if you're an investor, we could talk about starting a project. I have lots of ideas. I don't know how to go about doing that. In any case, this would be my first time building a world peace computer for somebody else. But one of the process constraints, one of the optimization constraints for this iteration now is I have to demonstrate that I'm capable of taking the situation seriously. Like, I have to solve the cash flow problem, and I have to do so in a way that doesn't short sell the value that I intend to deliver on. And I'll deliver on that with satisfaction guaranteed. Introducing myself. I'm Blair. I struggle with war, some mental illness, and me setting myself up for failure needlessly. All I care about is breaking that cycle, establishing peace, accelerating the advent of a computational global peace system. Seems like a worthy challenge.
All right. Thanks for the attention and the time. That was kind of a long one, I know. Lucy the Golden Doodle did save you from a 50-minute video, though, so it could have been worse. Yeah, I hope I in part got to the essence of like the question. It's like if you are to work with me, or if you are to commit to doing anything with me, or to observe me and reflect on my behavior, or judge me, or think a certain way about me, or behave a certain way because of me, like, you gotta know like why I am the way I am. Like, without that context, not a lot of me makes much sense, or it's just pure questionable, like red flag city, that sort of thing. Yeah, peace computer, nothing but peace computer. This guy. The introduction was also me demonstrating in real time one of my composition processes, sub-processes for my active peace process. That was you watching me generate an outline on the fly, freestyling. It's a freestyle. I sit down and I think about the goal, what I want to accomplish, and then I think of where to start, and I just start riffing, integrating pieces in real time in my headspace, and make a take, sit or reflect. I don't really listen to the take. I just remember what I said. I explore the constellation that happened in my head. I sit there and reflect. I manipulate the constellation. I vary it. I create the next iteration, and then I sit down and take another take and freestyle. I do this until I get to the point where I'm like, you know what? That was a solid 6 out of 10. That's what I would rate that. It's pretty low quality, but good enough to get the gist across and like hopefully hit home when it counts. And also just take 2 hours of my time, which is pretty nice. I'm not going to refine that anymore. I don't think. It'll be a while before I make another introduction video of that that particular pattern. But yeah, I just wanted to focus on being real with you, establishing the right foundation, right? Starting on the right foot. If we were to ever collaborate or work together, it's like, you got to know who I am. And yeah, I hope that like we do get to do cool shit together, building world peace computers, or just observe one another, our respective projects, as time goes on towards that that global peace system. But otherwise, may peace be your process.
I can facilitate, I can help install. I'm asking okay, Lucy, give you some pets. Give you some pets. You're throwing off my groove, girl. You're throwing off my groove. It's okay. It's okay. I can make a cut. Over the course of time, I've said a lot of things, and I've made a lot of overtures with regard to this peace computer thing. It struck me, though, running my process, the latest iteration, that I really owe all these people just the simple courtesy of an introduction. I don't think I've ever really introduced myself before, at least not in a direct sense. My name's Blair. What does that mean? The what's usually easy. How, a little more involved in terms of the story. The why, that's where you gotta hit the why. That's what explains who I am. Who am I? Why's hard though. It's a long, meandering story with highly non-linear cause and effect, connections and directions, and at this point I have to just force myself to be like, hey Blair, so what do people usually do when they tell a story? Oh yeah, right. Start with the who, which starts with the where and the when. That's easy. I can do that. Blair Monroe. I was born in Alaska, Anchorage. I lived here pretty much my whole life. 35 years. When? When did it really start? And who? I am somebody who has struggled with inner war their entire life. It started as a young child, by my version. I had night terrors. They really affected me, and they painted the way I look at the world. And I've always felt isolated in my world, so that's a second contributing factor to my inner war. And over time, I just found myself battling, struggling against, like, escalating war. Keeps escalating. Also, as a kid, though, looking around at the problems and reading about great figures, influences in the modern era, I was always big into Einstein, and I always thought it was funny how you'd hear, like, wow, yeah, Einstein was so smart that, like, he'd literally just put his pants on backwards because he was just working equations in his head all the time. And I was like, man, that kind of makes me feel like, it kind of reminds me of me. Like, I'm just in my own little world here, and I have a hard time, like, relating or being myself around people. But like, I want to do something big. And so, peace, kind of fixated on that as a concept very early on. And like, as my cycles of war progressed, so did my thoughts on the notion of peace and the notion of just solving human problems in general. And fast forward, my inner war cycles escalated into like the third formal contributing factor, which is chronic mental illness. My first World War broke out, I want to say it was 7 years ago. And that's when the mental illness piece, schizoaffective bipolar, ultimately with dual diagnoses, that took hold, and it was pretty much that was the war, that was the battle, or that is the primary like driving force for like my efforts as an individual, managing that and overcoming. I've had 3 world wars since my first break, and each time it had to do with a realization that sparked the first war. And that realization was that I'm tired of feeling like I'm trapped in my world, and people only ascribe their perception or notion of value to me, and they disregard the value that I know defines me. And so I was like, I'm gonna break free. And yeah, it just didn't work well, but at the time I was in my latest iteration of my effort to do that big thing like Einstein, where I'm gonna solve some epic problem. And yeah, just kind of like around then settled on, you know what, that problem's gonna be the world peace problem. I think that's a worthy problem to tackle and to take on as a person. And so I came out of my world shell, and like, here I am, and then boom, all hell broke loose. But in that period, that phase, I stumbled into a tool, and the tool was I remember I was just overwhelmed by the fact that I was trying to formulate a new model for describing physical and subjective reality. And I had all these different pieces from classical physics and quantum and mathematical and relativity. I was like, oh, if I could only just get it together. And I was super overwhelmed. I was like, damn, I don't have the tools to make this happen. It's just too much. Hey, Lucy, can you stop barking? Lucy, you relax. Relax. And I was like, there's so many pieces, and I feel so fragmented. I feel just scattered everywhere. Like, how do I unify these pieces? I'm like, man, I had just taken a course in computer hardware and architecture, and I was like, oh man, computers, they're proven, tried and true, they're so effective. I need to just invent a special purpose computer that all it does is like integrate my pieces, like put the pieces together. And in my world, I have pieces scattered everywhere, and it's so overwhelming. And that was contributing to the inner war at the time. It was just feeling like a crazy person, psychotic. And I was like, yeah, it'll be my world peace computer. Perfect. I need to make a world peace computer. That's the only way it's going to work. And it's like, that's cute. That's a cute play on words. Get it? It'd be like, it would bring my world peace if I could actually do that. If I could integrate the pieces into that whole. And so it was born. But yeah, that was just an idea. And it took 5-6 years for me to 2 more world wars. One of them, the second one, me ending up in the hospital. Third one, just pure humiliation. But realizing that, like, the only thing I care about is being at peace with myself. And that's just absolute. That's that's the only thing I care about is being at peace with myself, and I will do anything to do so. The Third World War was scary, and it's not. I cannot accept it. I cannot accept a fourth. I will not. It's dangerous. It spills out. It affects people. And I want to be a positive force in this universe. I want to have a positive impact. I don't want to be ugly and bad. I don't want to hurt people. So that's the only thing I care about. And I discovered over the course of those years that, yeah, the computer makes sense. Peace computer makes sense. It's like, peace is a process in the framework of a world peace computer. That's all it is. It's the only thing peace is. And so the only thing I care about is being at peace with myself, which means maintaining my peace process. And anything that gets in the way of that, anything that interferes with that, hinders that, well, that is a threat to my peace, and the war creeps in. When I don't address those threats, the war creeps in, and I still struggle with war. Right now, though, there are numerous treaties in place where it's like the war isn't total, like the world wars. It's there, and that's Blair, right? Me introducing myself. So I found myself in a position where I know that my world peace computer only functions effectively when I run the process a certain way. There are characteristics, they're all written down, but one thing I know is that if you don't tackle the hardest problem first, then because all the other problems are dependent on that, you have no way of guaranteeing that your process won't collapse. If you discover a dependency that is a showstopper, after solving a bunch of problems that you thought would avoid that you gotta solve the hardest problem first. And so right now, that's what I'm working on. Introducing myself, I find myself immediately in a position where my peace process is it's running through its next iteration. I've gone through several iterations at solving this particular hardest problem in the past, and I wasn't hitting it. And I've been running analysis to identify root cause. And recently what I discovered is that the root cause is pretty simple for the problem. And I guess to define the problem is that my process is individual. I'm the only one that I know of operating a world peace computer with the explicit framework. I am human. I have built-in reliability mechanisms to make my process as reliable as possible, but I still can't guarantee 100% uptime. The hardest problem is simple. For me to be at peace with myself, I need to know that there's a greater infrastructure in place that I can rely on in the event that my world peace computer crashes. For me to be at ease in this existence on this planet, I need there to be a computational global peace system. In terms of this framework and formalism, it would be a network of world peace computers. So the problem is, how do I kick that off? Like, get it going, make that happen. Especially when I just have influence, barely any influence, no measure of control. So all attempts to do so in the past have been similar in the sense that I realize now that I was just talking. And trying to inspire and promote and use the words, rhetoric. But the problem is that I was trying to say that, hey, I'm onto this thing, I'm onto something, and it's big, and the kind of value that it stores in its potential is, I think it's huge. So let's do it. Build a world peace computer. Everybody build a world peace computer, and then we'll link up. We'll meet up in the middle. What I realize now, this current iteration, is that I was just being immature. I haven't been taking myself seriously. And that would reflect in my personal world peace computer. I wasn't taking my ambition to establish the Invention program seriously, in the sense that I was willing to go all in instead of just talk. And consequently, my personal world peace computer was flimsy, more a toy than anything. But I realized that the problem is in the way I present. If I am to take myself seriously, then I need to approach the world in a serious manner. I need to actually do the work to back up the grandiose claim, which is, if I have this big thing I'm onto and I think it's got so much value, well, I got to be the one to prove it. I have the burden of proof. So I have to be the one to figure out a way to do the impossible thing, or the hardest thing. For me, it felt impossible for the longest time, But the hardest thing right now for me is figuring out how to convince somebody to fund my efforts, to how to convince somebody to hire me to build them a world peace computer. So this video introducing myself, being one piece within the recent product peace attempt, it's like I have to actually prove that, one, my individual world peace computer process is capable of even establishing viability in a professional setting, and then two, once I've established viability, I've earned an invitation or convinced somebody to welcome me to install a world peace computer in their organization and actually pull it off, and in doing so still do practical work like engineering, because that's my function. So yeah, I'm Blair, trying something different, because this is the latest iteration of this particular peace process evolution. I want to yeah, the only thing I care about is being at peace with myself, maintaining my peace process. Hire me to be your chief peace officer. I will install a world peace computer within your organization. It will be phenomenal. Or, if you're an investor, we could talk about starting a project. I have lots of ideas. I don't know how to go about doing that. In any case, this would be my first time building a world peace computer for somebody else. But one of the process constraints, one of the optimization constraints for this iteration now is I have to demonstrate that I'm capable of taking the situation seriously. Like, I have to solve the cash flow problem, and I have to do so in a way that doesn't short sell the value that I intend to deliver on. Like, I need to be paid well to build you a world peace computer. And I'll deliver on that with satisfaction guaranteed. Introducing myself. I'm Blair. I struggle with war, some mental illness, and me setting myself up for failure needlessly. All I care about is breaking that cycle, establishing peace, accelerating the advent of a computational global peace system. Seems like a worthy challenge. If I am to take myself seriously, then I need to approach the world in a serious manner.
Exciting advent of the computational global peace system. Seems like a worthy challenge.
I will just I think that's quite sure that as with like I'm learning that's dinner. That's all about it. None of that matters. It's just with this thing get rid of those guys. Can't think this and just over on that. You know, it's not used. But I should say it's a more simple in terms of stuff like that. I think it's pretty bad to actually it's not natural to see that behind you. But that's all about it. But nothing, everything, and I think like the best not good for something. Then to up to that, we get a little and push level is, you know, there's a point. If you don't get one of the elements in this, that is good, needs to do
I don't want to give up my time. But I realized upon my first fall, 2016,